Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. We appreciate you coming. My name is Tom Telementes. I am with Technology Solution Consultants, and today we have a presentation from Colleen Elber of Highland Software. I'm very fortunate today that we were able to take a preview of the soon-to-be launched integration for it with Adobe Sign with OnBase. So this is exciting news. Adobe's put together a great package, and we are going to see a preview of it this morning or this afternoon, wherever you happen to be. So just want to emphasize, this is a preview. We are going to see this coming out very shortly, and you'll be able to get it. But in the interim, we can certainly provide any information that you need. So we're going to have a quick survey to start it, and then at the end, if you guys could fill out the closing questions survey, that would be really helpful for us. So Colleen, we see a lot of folks. I'm watching the numbers go up, and a lot of folks are still getting on. So
let's maybe give it a minute.
Yeah, why don't we give it a minute and give folks a chance to log on.
Yeah, we'll give them another minute or two if they're like me. They want to, it's like 2 o'clock. Okay, now I'll join. So
right.
I wish I was an early bird. I'm just not.
Yeah. Well, I'm yeah, but it'll be what it'll be. And also, folks, just so you're aware, today is being recorded, so we're going to have the video available afterwards.
Yes. All right, the numbers are climbing. We'll give one more minute.
One more minute, yeah. I love watching the numbers climb. It's fun.
Me too.
So. But at any rate, I think in the last year when we've seen especially the need for electronic signatures, digital signatures, as folks are working remotely, we're seeing people realizing the importance of the cloud, the importance of digital signatures, and I think a lot of people are realizing that working in a virtual office and remotely can have a huge impact on efficiency, as well as give people the opportunity to have more work-life balance. So we don't know what's next, but we think today we're going to show you a tool that can really enhance what we've all encountered in the last year, and hopefully this will be a great addition to your OnBase environment. So I think with that, I'm going to hand it over to Colleen Elber with Highland Software. She's been with Highland for many years. I'll let her describe that, but she's the product evangelist for Adobe Sign, and is going to walk us through this presentation. All right, Colleen.
All right, thank you so much, Tom, and welcome everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. I have been a product evangelist with Highland for over 15 years, and I'm coming to you live out of my living room in Cleveland, Ohio. I am the evangelist for all of our signature solutions, and I'm excited to share with you today a preview. This is the first time I have ever given this presentation on OnBase integration for Adobe Sign with a little bit of workflow and a little bit of reporting. Please mute yourselves, but type any questions that you have into the chat. Jamin from TSC will interrupt me kindly to ask any questions that we get throughout, because we would love this to be as conversational as possible. So you all know Adobe. They invented the PDF. They gained popularity in the market share with Flash and Photoshop, Illustrator, and Reader. Yet many are not necessarily aware that Adobe offers an e-signature solution. It's fairly new. It was launched in 2019. It was a relaunch of EchoSign that they acquired in 2016, and it already holds 20% of the market share, and greater than 50% of the Fortune 100 own it. So I am curious to see where you fall. And Tom, if you don't mind launching our poll, we have a quick question for you. Are you using Adobe Sign? Are you using DocuSign, or are you using something else? And we'll give you just a few minutes to answer that poll for us. And then Tom, once you feel like the numbers have kind of settled with people answering, you can share the results either by sharing the screen, or you can just tell us what they came in as.
Okay. And also, folks, just so you know, other can include pens,
Yep.
pens and pencils. So
Yeah. Fair enough. Good point.
that number just doubled.
Old-fashioned methods. Yes.
Right. We call it the traditional method.
Yes, there we go.
So um, that other category really shot up. It quadrupled.
Really? Oh, I'll be interested to know what other means now. Feel free to type it into the chat to us privately if you're so inclined. Okay, what do our results look like?
We are at 56% DocuSign
Okay.
and 6% Adobe Sign, 38% other.
Okay, excellent. And really that falls in line, so you can stop sharing the poll. Thank you, Tom, for that. And really that falls in line with the market, right? So Adobe Sign is roughly 20%, meaning that DocuSign is roughly 70%, and I think probably 10% for everything else. So what we're seeing on the line is in line with the industry. And that's primarily because DocuSign has been in this business and they have a very mature product. For those that do have DocuSign, Highland OnBase also has an integration with the DocuSign product, very similar to what you're going to see today. The offerings are, for all intents and purposes, analogous in the ability to take an OnBase document, push it up to the cloud, facilitate that electronic signature, and bring it back in. Today, however, though, we are going to focus on Highland OnBase and Adobe Sign. And listening to our customers, we heard that you want choices. Maybe your e-signature provider is DocuSign, maybe it's something else, maybe it's Adobe Sign. And so together, what we hope to do is extend OnBase documents to approval processes within Adobe Sign. We want to help you reduce the legal risk and improve compliance and increase security, and add automation and reduce manual work via OnBase workflow. And then lastly, and I think probably most importantly, we want to meet user expectations for digital interaction and experiences. So what we're going to talk about today, our agenda, is that of a product overview, a solution demo, some technical tidbits like how do you go about getting this all set up, and then lastly, we'll do a little bonus with reporting dashboards. So let's start at the top with a product overview. And Tom said it, I said it, I'm required legally to say it again. This integration for Adobe Sign has not yet been released. And so what you're going to see here is a preview. It is set to release in Q2, so likely June, this coming June, but anything can happen. So with that said, let's talk about OnBase integration for Adobe Sign. It's simple, it's straightforward, yet it's sophisticated. It's the opportunity to sign electronically OnBase documents directly from the Adobe Sign cloud, while OnBase is aware the entire time of the status of that document within Adobe Sign. So it allows, if we look at OnBase on the right-hand side, using OnBase workflow to manage the signature cycle. At a point in time, using a workflow action, the document is sent up to the Adobe Sign cloud for signature. They then facilitate the collection of that signature, alerting the user, having them sign physically or typing their signature in, capturing the signature, maybe even in various signature locations. Once the signature is complete, the document is then downloaded back into OnBase. Signers can sign at any time from anywhere. And as I said, the document is downloaded into OnBase as a new document where it can continue to be processed as part of the business process lifecycle that is in place for the contract, the agreement, or whatever document has been sent out to be signed. So how this integration works is through workflow rules and actions. It's all managed as part of the workflow process, because really when you think about it, the collection of the signature is typically part of a bigger business process. You know, we've got it, let's say we're talking about contracts. We have to draft the contract, we have to revise it, we have to agree on a final copy. It needs to be signed internally. Then it's pushed externally for that signature. Then it's brought back in. Then the contract is executed. So the signature is one component of that workflow process. But if we're going to break it down into three key features of the integration itself, we can use workflow to upload the document to Adobe Sign, to check the agreement status. Has it been looked at? Has it been signed? And then lastly, once that signature has been captured or signatures have been captured, we can download the document back into OnBase. And we have a little listener service for archival that will further then the workflow processing and the retention once the document has been imported back into OnBase. So that's,
Hey, Colleen, we've got our first question.
Go ahead, thank you.
The question is the new document, is it a new document or a revision of the old document?
With this particular integration, currently it is a new document. It could certainly use keywords to set it up as a revision or to cross-reference them, but we are importing this document, or downloading it from Adobe Sign as a new document. And our suggestion would be to use cross-references to link that final PDF signed copy with all of the previous revisions that might be stacked on top of each other. So great question, thank you.
Absolutely.
Any others?
Not yet, keep going.
All right, so let's take a look at the software. Again, this is a preview, but it'll give you a good idea as to what we're looking at. So here we are in OnBase workflow. Remember that I said that this is all facilitated using workflow rules and actions. So here we are in the OnBase web client, but this integration is available from the OnBase Thick client, the Unity client, or the web client, and it's analogous across the board, meaning that you're going to build this into your workflow configuration, and the ad hoc tasks themselves are surfaced in any of our clients. So here we can, having passed this initial validation step, and that's just part of our workflow, the document resides in the upload for signature step, and this is just one example workflow, as you can see in the screens. I'm just kind of walking you through, and it's ready for upload. So now we have this ad hoc task to send the document to Adobe Sign. So the user, once that document has been finalized and they're ready to send it out, they're going to click this ad hoc task to send the document to Adobe Sign. Before we take a look at that interface, the Adobe Sign Compose view, I want to bring your attention to the right-hand side where we have some of the keyword values. While we are not pulling directly from keyword values, but instead a workflow property, these workflow properties can be mapped to keyword values, and we'll grab that workflow property that's pulling from a keyword value that we'll then use to pre-fill, as you see here in the Compose view, the recipients of the signature. So we're grabbing those email address from workflow properties, from keywords, copying them to workflow properties, and then the integration is pulling from those workflow properties to pre-fill our Adobe Sign Compose view. So the user is clicking the ad hoc task, and then they're being presented with this Compose view, and they can continue to modify or add directly to this interface. Maybe they want to add more of a message or update the subject. We can pre-fill to a certain extent, and then they can continue to modify. Once this Compose view has been completed, you'll notice on the bottom this little preview and add signature fields. That's pre-selected, and then it will provide the user with an interface to place the signature location on the document. So now we have this same agreement, and the user has the opportunity to use the Adobe Sign interface to determine where the signature fields should go. And we'll see on the right-hand side, we have a couple different opportunities for the signature field. Do we want just an initial? Do we want a full signature? Is a stamp of some kind? And then also, is there one or more locations where we want to capture this signature? We're not limited to one location or one signature. They can define within this interface where these components should go. At that point, the document is now out for signature. So once the user has completed those steps, they click apply and the document is out for signature. And at this point, even though we're looking at OnBase workflow, our document is still, in workflow, and OnBase is aware of it. Adobe Sign is now taking over to facilitate the signature. So we have passed over to Adobe Sign, as you saw, those recipients. Adobe Sign is then sending an email to that end user requesting their signature. And many of you have probably signed a document in this way. Oftentimes from your phone, you get an email. The interface is super slick, and the user can review and sign the document from anywhere. Maybe they're at their computer, maybe they're on their phone. it doesn't matter. Once the document has been sent out for signature, it means it's now fully in the Adobe sign process. And I click the link to sign the document. From here, the user is easily able to follow the tabs to navigate to the signature location on the document and apply their signature. And this process will be repeated based on the number of signers that have been assigned to the document. And here we go. They click to sign the document. And here's where it gets fun. It blows up nice and big for them on their screen. And this was all about usability, because can you imagine on that tiny little box if you were on your phone? No way. So it takes over the screen with this signature component, and the signature is entered. The Adobe Sign interface makes applying the signature so easy. The user can type it in, they can draw, they can take their take a stab at signing with their finger if they'd like, or they can even apply a pre-captured signature. Maybe they have an image of their signature. They can drag it over and apply that signature here as well. Once they're happy with their signature, and I know I'm sometimes like signing more than once, I'm like, oh, that doesn't look good. Let me try again. They can apply the signature to the document.
So Colleen, we had a question again.
Go for it.
If there are any edits/disputes of the document and that prohibits the end user from signing, how is that displayed?
The document would have to be from, I guess, an internal perspective, you know, all set in stone. So everybody internal agrees. I'm assuming you're talking about, okay, now I send it out to my third party and they say, nope, this doesn't look good. We're not ready to sign it. Our advice in that case would be a couple things. First, we can check the signature status and see that it's not signed. And then we could send another email to which they could reply, hey, we don't agree with this particular document. What I've also seen some customers do is, you know, share a draft contract ahead of time and pass it back and forth using OnBase workflow and ShareBase to capture all of those revisions, so that that process has taken place ahead of time, so that by the time you're getting to the signature step of the process, we all agree and we're ready to sign, and we're really just double checking that, yep, everything I saw in those previous drafts looks good here.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure, certainly. So now the signature has been applied and the user gets a confirmation that it's all set. You're done here, the document has been signed. We can send you a copy. You can also download a copy that you've just signed here. And the best part is that OnBase is aware. Remember, we've got this listener, we're checking these statuses. We know that the document has been signed and it's complete, and it's archived back into OnBase as a new document and as a PDF. So remember, we got that question earlier. This new document that comes in is not a revision. You could certainly manually, you know, attach it as a revision by matching up those keywords, but our advice is to very easily cross-reference it using the agreement ID. So the document will have an agreement ID, both the draft copy and the final copy. That allows you to cross-reference them. And the reason we advise keeping them separate is that now this final contract, you can segment permissions between the drafts and the final copy within your OnBase document types. And you can also allow this final signed copy document type to possibly be the one that would show up in a folder for that particular customer or vendor that you're working with.
So Colleen, we have a couple that may be a bit more focused on Adobe feature set, but the first one is, do the recipients need any Adobe Sign licenses?
They do not need any Adobe Sign licenses. It's the sender of the document. So your organization that is sending out the contract to be signed that needs the licenses, not the end user recipient that is doing the signing.
Fabulous. The second one that we have, and there are a couple here still, is if there are multiple signers, does it go through signer A, then signer B, and so on, similar to if people are familiar with the DocuSign process, and this may be specific to the Adobe Sign settings.
Yes, so that would be configured and it will go through that predefined order. So it will be signer A, wait for them, then signer B, then signer C, and it will go through that list. Exactly. Very similar to DocuSign.
Okay, perfect. The next question is there a custom reminder rule/action in the case signer forgets to sign a document?
Sure, that would all be built into OnBase workflow. So one of our rules that we have in OnBase workflow is to check the agreement status. If we find it in an unsigned status, we can send out an additional notification to remind them to sign the document. So absolutely, we can send reminders like, hey, remember you still have this agreement out there that needs to be signed. Absolutely. So between Adobe Sign and OnBase, it's not just a one and done. We'll continue to remind users when that status is unsigned.
Thank you. And the final one so far is, are documents set up as templates in Adobe Sign ahead of time, or is it done at the time the workflow task is executed in OnBase?
At this particular point, the user is setting it up. Just because this is our initial release, they are manually determining where the signature should go and how the process will flow in terms of the signer order and things like that. We do plan to eventually, just like we do with DocuSign, to support DocuSign templates where all of that information is kind of predefined. But I will tell you, even in some of the DocuSign template case, I still found that a lot of users still wanted it, even though it had it predetermined or templated out, they were still kind of moving things around and making modifications. So oftentimes that user is still interacting with the interface just to kind of double check everything. But right now, to maybe answer the question a little more directly, there is not the support for templates with Adobe Sign like there is for DocuSign in the OnBase integration world.
Great. And we've got another one that came in. Can the process be configured to eliminate any end user interaction? Example, position of signature would be predefined. And this, I think we might have covered a little bit previously.
Yes, and just not yet. So right now, it is that click on that workflow ad hoc task that will display Adobe Sign composed. The user has to make the decisions at this point. We have on our roadmap to automate this process a little bit more, but right now they are going to do that little bit of interaction.
Okay, great. And we have another one. This is great,
okay,
guys. Thank you for the interaction. I love it. The next one is, can I send multiple documents as a single agreement?
Yes. You would have to combine them though into a single file within OnBase before sending them up to DocuSign. So we have tools in OnBase. The one that is coming immediately to mind and is the most popular is a tool called document packaging, where it will take multiple OnBase documents, and it even provides you with an interface in OnBase to manipulate the package that it creates. Like maybe you set up a document package template that 5 documents belong in this, and you say, well, in this case, only 4, or not the 3rd page of that document. We use document packaging to bring all those together, output a single PDF, oftentimes with the table of contents, and then that package would be what is sent up to the DocuSign cloud for signature. And you would see the designation between those different documents, but it would all be one PDF, if you will.
Fabulous. Great.
Okay, very good. Thank you for all the questions. I love it. It makes it a lot more fun. So here we have our final document archived as a PDF. You know, if you're following along with our workflow, we're now signed and returned. We could have this document exit workflow potentially now as part of this process. You see the signature burned into the PDF. And you'll also notice on the right-hand side that this includes a panel that offers signature validation. So we can see by opening up this panel on the left that it is certified by Adobe Sign. So you even get that little extra validation right in the PDF document itself. All right, so now for a few technical tidbits, just to kind of whet your appetite in terms of how does this get set up, configured, and installed, what is required. So let's start at the top. We've mentioned that this is a preview. It will be released with OnBase Foundation EP5 coming up within just a few short months. It is initially introduced as an OnBase workflow rule and action. So you would need to configure this as part of your workflow process. We have the 2 actions and the 1 rule, which you can see here, and you would just build those into your process, and I'm going to show them in a minute so you can see what the config looks like. And again, this is supported across our 3 primary OnBase clients, Thick, Unity, which of course extends to Outlook integration, and our web client. So here's what the configuration looks like. I grabbed just a couple screenshots from OnBase workflow. So you can see the different action and rule types. You can also see, if you're curious, the different agreement statuses that we can check. And then based on the value that is returned from that agreement status, we can, take additional action to facilitate the signature or if it wasn't signed, or if it's just expired, maybe it's been out there too long, or the user abandoned it, but they haven't finished the signatures, we can send some reminders and those kind of things. But this is all done in OnBase workflow. A couple prerequisites that are required. You will need an OnBase integration for Adobe Sign license. It is pricing analogous and similar to our integration for DocuSign. We have options for both on-prem, if you have your OnBase system on-prem, as well as cloud to cloud if you're hosted in our cloud. You will need to be licensed for OnBase workflow. That's where the configuration is done, and as well have an OnBase client. Additionally, just kind of things to keep in mind, your workflow configuration is taking place in Studio. The API server and Highland IDP, which are newer components and part of OnBase Foundation EP5, are also required. Okay, Jamin, do we have any other questions before we get to our bonus section on reporting?
I just had a question, and it was more of your opinion question, or maybe you could elaborate a bit on some of the benefits of having this integration, because obviously we can use any sort of external digital signature platform. If I just export the document and send it through that platform manually, upload it, get it back to that system, download it, and put it back into OnBase. But what am I missing out if I do it that way?
I think you're missing the rest of the workflow. Like that signature piece is just one small part of the overall business process. You think about a contract administration. Well, we've got to request the contract, so I need to fill out a form, and then I'm going to use .comp potentially in OnBase to give me the shell of the contract, or workview case management, and then I'm updating the contract and I'm circulating it for revisions, and we're stacking those revisions, and I'm sharing it with ShareBase and keeping it secure. So I think the real value here is that it's connected seamlessly to the bigger business process that is being facilitated in OnBase workflow, and that OnBase, because of this integration, is aware of the status of the document in Adobe Sign the entire time. It's not a disjointed process of, okay, well now my contract's complete in OnBase, so I'm going to export it, and then I'm going to upload it to Adobe Sign, that it's signed, so I'm going to bring it back down and re-import it into OnBase. It's really that cradle to grave electronic solution where we're using the best of breed signature technology to facilitate that piece of it, but the rest of the business process is OnBase.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. And it probably also would touch on what we were talking about earlier with the security of the right version,
right,
and edits that are permissible as opposed to not permissible, so that we know that the correct version of the document was actually the one that got signed in the end.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right that all of that happens up front. Well, now I have this signed document back in OnBase. Well, that's typically not the end of the process either. Maybe in a year or 2 years, this contract needs to be revisited and re-signed. I want to be able to report on the different contracts. I want to be able to search them. I want to connect this contract to the other documents in OnBase related to the customer. So and retain it for the appropriate amount of time. I need to delete it with records management. So everything that happens before and after is all happening in OnBase.
Great. Fabulous. We did have one more question come in while we were chatting back and forth.
Yeah.
Is the Adobe Agreement ID a pre-configured item within keyword within OnBase, or is that something that we could configure in our solutions?
Ooh, that is a good question. I will have to follow up and ask that. If any of the technical folks from Highland are on, you could message into Jamin or somebody from TCS and let them know. I'm gonna have to check on that one. I think it is automated, but I would have to check on that one. So I'll let you know. I'll see if I can find out.
We will follow up. Great question,
Yep,
Chip.
we'll follow up with that. Yeah, you stumped me. But I'm going to give myself a break. It's the first time giving this presentation. There's a lot of good questions that are now going to be part of my FAQ list. Okay, so we've talked all about integration with Adobe Sign, electronic signatures, workflow. I wanted to introduce a bonus section, and it follows the lines of you can't improve what you don't measure. We've talked all about a workflow process that includes a signature component, but how is that workflow and that business process performing? How long is it taking for a document to flow through our contract management lifecycle process? How long is a document potentially sitting in any one given workflow queue waiting for a signature? Well, if we're not measuring that stuff, we can't improve it. And the great Peter Drucker, who is arguably the world's greatest management consultant, he is a leader in the development of management education, and he invented the concept known as management by objectives and self-control. He is considered the founder of modern management, which I think is just so fascinating. He's Austrian, and he says you can't improve what you don't measure, and that is so true. So that's where reporting dashboards comes into play. Reporting dashboards is a long-standing OnBase module that provides visibility, reporting, and analytics on your OnBase solution. It is native to OnBase. It is point and click configurable in terms of the dashboards that you create, and it allows you to analyze both business data as well as system performance. And I think the real differentiator and key here is that this is a really cost-effective reporting solution that reports not just on OnBase, but on other third-party data as well. You can create an external data provider that would actually even grab data and report on it, that data that exists in other applications. And that's huge, because then you can get that one complete view of all of your information. Where we see this used mostly, no surprise, is to report on workflow processes. I wish I had a dashboard, and I'm going to get one eventually, that shows all of my contracts and where they're at in terms of Adobe Sign and their signature status. That is a dashboard that you could create that would showcase we have this many signed contracts, we have 3 that have been abandoned, we have 4 that haven't been looked at yet. But regardless of whether we're talking signatures and contracts or AP invoices, it's a simple representation of items in a queue that can provide so much visibility. Instead of just looking at item counts in one queue, you're looking at all of the invoices, let's say, and where they are in the approval process. You can drill down to different vendors, different dollar amounts. You can even view the individual invoices right from here. And all of these different widgets within our reporting dashboard, we're all point and click configured. Here we're looking at the Unity client. Here's another example of a dashboard. And this is one of my favorites because it showcases an out of the box map where all of the states have been bound by a keyword that is a 2-digit state code, allowing us to automatically provide the representation of volume by location. And this is a really cool example that we borrowed from a customer where they actually went above and beyond just reporting on invoices. But this is, hey, how was this vendor in the first place? Were they good to work with? They sent out surveys to their employees. And this is representation of some of that survey data, which allowed them to say, these are our preferred vendors, and these maybe not so much. Here's a WorkView case management dashboard. This is a great example of IS work orders. So IS orders come in. Here's how productive our different employees are in completing those orders. Here's an administrative dashboard that shows requests by administrators, similar to our IT dashboard, but it shows that, boy, Cindy's really been working really hard. You know, most of the requests that have come in have been fulfilled by her. And these are all interactive. So if you were to click on Cindy Smith, you would see all of the requests that came in that she fulfilled, and you could even open up an individual item.
So Colleen, we did have Jessica as a Highlander attendee, and she did give us some insight into the agreement ID question within Adobe Sign.
Thanks, Jess.
So I'll go ahead and read that back for the group. Jessica shared with us that the agreement ID is an Adobe Sign value. The integration will automatically add it to any document or agreement sent to Adobe from OnBase to link the OnBase document with the agreement in Adobe. But if an organization has Adobe agreements already existing that started in Adobe or elsewhere, the agreement ID can be added manually to a keyword value on an OnBase document and used to import into OnBase via the download action. Agreement ID values should not be edited without a clear intention, as this is the main link but ensuring the agreement is downloaded and imported and it's cutting it off on the screen. Downloaded and imported, excuse me, when complete. There we go.
There you go. Excellent. Thank you, Jessica. So bottom line is that agreement ID, as I suspected, is for the most part automatically assigned by Adobe Sign in a typical scenario. They're going to provide us that ID and assign it to the documents, but it sounds like there are some options if you are already working with Adobe Sign and have a series of IDs already created.
Yep, sounds like the net takeaway is talk to your OnBase support provider to talk about best practices to make sure you're optimizing what's possible and what should be done.
Perfect. Well, it's funny that Jessica should speak up and help out because she is also my counterpart in our mapping tools and Esri integrations. And this is a cool use case of reporting dashboards in conjunction with maps. So we're getting a little off of the signature track, but it shows then that shape file. So this map of Northeast Ohio was imported into OnBase. And again, we've bound these little sections of the map where each individual zip code is to an OnBase keyword, and it's allowing us to display the number of accidents based on zip code. And this is all reporting dashboards out of the box. Where this gets cool is we can actually integrate this with an integration for Esri and display, let's say for 44145, a particular zip code that is very has high accident traffic. We could display on an interactive Esri map where all of those accidents took place. So it's a really cool opportunity to show the distribution of documents on a map, presenting users who need to make informed decisions a picture rather than a list of documents and data. So reporting dashboards is extremely robust. Here's another great example. This is one of our administrative dashboards that shows number of documents by location, or counts by document type. Administrators love to know how many documents do we have in any one particular document type, what document types are being used and which ones aren't, or by facility. This is a great dashboard that you can use in that case. And we have many, many, many different dashboard items. You'll see some of them here. So everything from scorecards to tree maps to grids to the familiar pie, bar, column, and line charts. How is this configured? Well, it's all done in Unity-based configuration. This is where the primary configuration takes place. We also have a web-based configuration tool for reporting dashboards. I'm not highlighting it here, but you do have the ability within a web-based tool to modify existing dashboards as well. But most of the features currently are on this Unity-based configuration. But if you are all 100% web, we have options for you too. The good news is that with reporting dashboards, we have example dashboards to get you started. So a lot of these workflow administrative dashboards are already available. There's also step-by-step providers for many of the popular modules that you might have. So if you want to keep track of and report on retrieval or imaging, we've got all of those data providers already ready to go. And the sky's the limit if you know a little SQL. And then I mentioned that configuration is both Unity and the Web Dashboard Suite, and you can access this from just about anywhere. So for more information on reporting dashboards, you can access the Highland community. We don't yet have a community up for Adobe Sign, but with the release of EP5, you can go to your familiar community.highland.com and access any information that you might need on the new product as well. So Jamin, do we have any final questions or discussion?
Not currently. I'd like to make sure that no one's typing here, so I'll double check, but I don't see.
We can give it another minute. I'm super excited about this integration with Adobe Sign. It is super feature rich for an initial release. I'm excited at Highland. We're offering now options within the e-signature space. It's all configured and available via workflow, so you can even build it into your existing workflow process. And of course, reporting dashboards is tried and true ability to measure the processes that you have in place.
So many things can be done with that tool.
Agreed.
All right, I don't see any more questions coming in. Feel free to add them later, but we'll keep going.
Okay. All right, well then with that, Jamin, I will hand over to you to bring us home.
Sounds great. All right. Well, one of the things that comes up a lot in discussions like this is I have questions and I want to either implement some ideas that I have from this session myself. I'd like to know how I could get help doing this, what are best practices. All of these things kind of blend over into a space that is growing quickly in our industry called managed services. And at TSC, we have a practice for managed services. Almost any of your OnBase support providers will as well. I won't read the whole screen here, but these are typical things that we see leading people to want to discuss what managed services are, what are available with managed services, and what that might look like. It's not a one-size-fit-all platform, so it's something that can extend your resources for adopting the latest and greatest in a platform that is a big investment within your IT ecosystem. So if you have questions about this, feel free to reach out to TSC and or your primary OnBase support provider. We'd love to see you join us. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was muted. Colleen, thank you. First of all, great presentation. And to everyone who joined us today, we appreciate it. We wanted to let you know this is the latest in our Explore OnBase series. And our next one will be on April 22nd. And we are going to discuss OnBase Workview. And OnBase Workview is an incredible tool and is going to allow us to show you how to use a highly configurable tool set to create applications within your environment to give you really increased efficiency, greater visibility in all areas of your operation, visibility into business processes, and also give you an opportunity to look at those non-document centric processes that you want to track. So there's a number of things that we can do. I'm going to show you how it works for areas in human resources, asset management, contract management, and a few dozen others. So please join us for that. And then keep an eye out for these. We're going to do an OnBase integration for Salesforce, automation for human resources, and then we're going to look at change management and how you can leverage OnBase for change management needs. So we're continuing to add topics. If you guys have things that you would like to see, please let us know, because we're happy to put something together. We're always looking to see what the market is hungry for and where we can be the best value. Shaman?
Helps if I unmute myself. Thanks, Tom, and thanks to Colleen for putting together that presentation today. I certainly learned a lot about the upcoming integration for Adobe Sign. It certainly will give us another option in the tool belt to support some digital signatures, which are certainly becoming more and more in demand these days. So we hope that this was beneficial use of your time today. We appreciate your attendance. If there's questions that you didn't get in time, we're not going anywhere. Reach out to your Highland support team, reach out to TSC. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can get our email. We're here to help. If you've got questions, need some follow-up, let us know. And please do send us over, as Tom said, if you've got ideas for things that you'd like to see covered in some of these upcoming Explore OnBase webinars. We would love to have your input. So in the meanwhile, we appreciate your time today. And Colleen, thank you so much once again. A fabulous job as always.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for all the questions. That was great. Great fun.
Absolutely.
I have one more thing, folks. If you could respond to the survey that you're gonna see here, that would be really helpful for us to help us improve, and also to see what ways we can present better things in the future that are also helpful for your organization. So if you take a moment for the survey, that'd be really helpful for us. Thanks so much.
Great. I think with that, I don't see any more questions, so we will wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance. Have a fabulous afternoon. And Colleen, as always, it's a pleasure. We appreciate your help with us today.
For sure. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Colleen.